Good evening. You now have me, Shilshmato for TVS Nightline, and here are the headlines for tonight. Sarawak is exempted from federal laws and requirements under PDA 1974 in regard to its gas distribution. Meanwhile, Economy Minister Dr. Sri Rafizi announces his resignation from the cabinet. And in world news, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto says he's willing to recognize Israel if it recognizes a Palestinian state. We begin with this news. Sarawak is exempted from the requirements under Section 6(1) and (3) of the Petroleum Development Act PDA 1974 to obtain the Prime Minister's permission to distribute gas. In his winding up speech today, Sarawak Premier Dato' Peri Tan Sri Abang Johari Tunapeng said the 1993 Gas Supply Act also does not apply to Sarawak, as the matter was decided in the signing of a joint declaration between the federal and Sarawak governments on May 21st, 2025. According to him, the Gas Distribution Ordinance 2016 remains the primary law regulating the sector in Sarawak.
That federal and state laws on distribution of gas shall be respected by all persons undertaking the distribution and supply of gas in Sarawak. Federal laws like the Gas Supply Act 1993 do not apply to Sarawak, and Sarawak is exempted from the requirements imposed by Section C(1) and (3) of the Petroleum Development Act 1974 to obtain the permission of the Prime Minister to undertake distribution of gas business in Sarawak. We are exempted.
Meanwhile, Sarawak makes a new stride with record financial performance, marking its highest revenue of 14.187 billion ringgit in 2024. Deputy Sarawak Premier and Second Minister of Finance and New Economy, Dr. Ahmad Sugamba, said the outstanding accomplishment is a result of ongoing efforts in revenue re-engineering.
In 2024, Sarawak achieved a total revenue of ringgit Malaysia 14.187 billion, making the highest revenue ever recorded in its history. This outstanding accomplishment is a result of our ongoing effort in revenue re-engineering, initiated and led by our Yang Amat Rahmat Premier.
UGA added that a significant portion of the state's revenue came from the state's sales tax on oil and gas, which has contributed 21.38 billion ringgit since its introduction in January 2019 up to April 2025. Meanwhile, the operating expenditure for 2024 amounted to 12.71 billion ringgit, including 4.91 billion ringgit for operations and 7.8 billion ringgit into the development funds account. With regards to development expenditure, the state spent 8.66 billion ringgit out of 9.1 billion ringgit, or 95% of the total development budget for 2024.
Revenue. For the year 2025, the state revenue projection was at ringgit Malaysia 14.2 billion. As of April, the sum of ringgit Malaysia 4.3 billion, or 30% of the projected revenue, has been collected, contributed by the following major source. 1. State sales tax, ringgit Malaysia 1.76 billion. Cash compensation in lieu of oil and gas right, ringgit Malaysia 1.17 billion. Dividend, ringgit Malaysia 608 million.
As of April, approved operating expenditures totaled 3.68 billion ringgit, while development expenditures amounted to 1.44 billion ringgit.
The Sarawak government is currently in the process of gradually taking over environmental regulatory powers from the federal government under the Malaysia Agreement 1963, or MA63, as a key step to strengthen the state's autonomy in environmental management. Deputy Sarawak Premier and Second Minister of Natural Resources and Urban Development, Dr. Ahmad Awang Tengah Ali Hassan, said the first phase involves the takeover of scheduled waste management, while the following phases will cover management of industrial effluents, air quality control and environmental impact assessments.
Kerajaan juga sedang dalam proses menggubal peraturan-peraturan yang baru bagi memperkukuh penguasaan Natural Resources and Environment Ordinance 2024 yang telah diluluskan pada sidang Dewan Undangan Negeri Sarawak yang lepas.
He said this when delivering his ministerial winding-up speech at the Sarawak State Legislative Assembly sitting today. To prepare for the transition, the Natural Resources and Environment Board, NREB, has also implemented initiatives to strengthen the state's environmental management capacity and system. These include the introduction of a new organizational structure starting July 1st, 2024, the execution of 32 joint enforcement operations with the Department of Environment Sarawak, and the development of a scheduled waste management module within the Environmental Information System Sarawak as a platform for monitoring and managing data.
Welcome back. Economy Minister Dr. Sri Rafizi announced that he had submitted his resignation from the cabinet to Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim. He said the resignation will take effect from June 17th and that he will be on leave until June 16th. He explained that he entered politics to promote a new political culture based on accountability and the people's mandate. According to him, his recent loss in the Parti Keadilan Rakyat PKR election means he no longer holds the mandate from the party to translate the people's agenda championed by PKR into government programs. Rafizi lost to Nurul Izzah Anwar in the closely watched contest for PKR's deputy presidency last Friday. Rafizi said that his final duty as Economy Minister was the completion of the 13th Malaysia Plan, which has been finalised and is awaiting presentation in the upcoming parliamentary session. He noted that the plan was formulated to place strong emphasis on comprehensive education reforms, including several structural reforms involving the Ministry of Education. He hoped that the Cabinet will continue to uphold several bold reforms involving the Ministry of Education as outlined in the 13th Malaysia Plan, even though he will no longer be in a cabinet. On the other hand, Nik Ahmad has also resigned as Minister of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability effective July 4th. Nik Nazmi said his previous position as PKR Vice President was among the reasons why he was appointed as a minister, and since he lost his post in the recent party polls, he decided to resign as minister. In a statement today, Nik Nazmi announced he had tendered his resignation as a member of the cabinet to Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Nik Nazmi failed to defend his PKR vice presidency in an 11-cornered contest last week. Since his appointment to the cabinet as Minister of Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change in December 2022 and subsequently as Minister of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability, he had done his best to implement much-needed reforms. He said the achievements of both ministries included amendments to the Environmental Quality Act 1974, Act 127, and enhanced transparency in the reporting of environmental impact assessments, EIA. And now on to world affairs. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto today said he would be willing to establish diplomatic relations with Israel if it recognized a Palestinian state, as he held talks with French President Emmanuel Macron in Jakarta. Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim-majority nation, has no formal ties with Israel and has consistently called for a two-state solution to the decades-long conflict.
Indonesia sudah menyampaikan begitu negara Palestina diakui oleh Israel, Indonesia siap untuk mengakui Israel dan kita siap untuk membuka hubungan diplomatik dengan Israel. Kita juga harus mengakui dan menjamin hak Israel untuk berdiri sebagai negara yang berdaulat dan negara yang harus juga diperhatikan dan dijamin keamanannya.
In a joint statement, France and Indonesia called for progress on mutual recognition between Israel and the Palestinians at an international conference meant to resurrect the idea of a two-state solution next month, which Paris will co-chair. Support for the Palestinian cause runs high in Indonesia, and the issue regularly prompts protests. In 2023, FIFA stripped Indonesia as Under-20 World Cup hosts after some prominent politicians called for Israel to be kicked out of the tournament and refused to host its team. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for a three-way summit with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin as he seeks to force Moscow to halt its three-year invasion. But Russian President Putin rejected calls to meet Zelensky in Turkey earlier this month. The Kremlin has said a meeting between the two leaders would only happen after some kind of agreement is reached. The US president, meanwhile, has expressed frustration at both Putin and Zelensky for not yet striking a deal to end the war. The Ukrainian leader said he was ready for the trilateral meeting, also urged Washington to hit Moscow with a package of hard-hitting sanctions on its banking and energy sector. The Ukrainian leader had previously appeared to express frustration at Washington for not having announced fresh sanctions on Moscow after Russia rejected a coordinated Western appeal for an immediate ceasefire. Hours after Zelensky spoke, Ukraine unleashed one of its largest ever drone barrages on Russia, firing almost 300 drones at the country. On the battlefield, Zelensky said that Russia was amassing more than 50,000 troops on the front line around the northeastern Sumy border region as the Russian army seeks to establish a buffer zone inside Ukrainian territory. Zelensky also said that Ukraine is yet to receive a promised memorandum from Russia on its demands for a peace deal. See the world closer with TVS as we bring the latest news updates both locally and internationally. For more headlines anytime, anywhere, just head on to our official website at tvsarawak.my or follow us on our social media platforms at TV Sarawak. And those were the updates on TVS Nightline. I'm Shulcha Mato. Thank you for watching and have a good night.